So this is a very popular subject, this topic of dealing with difficult people, and I often wonder why. But then again, I don't really, because I know that we're living in very challenging times, and people's personalities, they're all different. And so it's dealing with different personalities, really, is what we're talking about. You know, there was someone who defined what a difficult person is, and it's a simple definition, really. And it's that person who does what you don't want them to do, and then who doesn't do what you do want them to do, and then you don't know what to do about them. And then someone else sort of shared a definition with me. It's that person who walks in the room and you're going, oh, great to see you, fantastic, so glad you could make it. But inside you're going, oh, God, not you again. So there's this gap between the face and the expression and the welcome and the reality. And the reality is coming from deep within ourselves. I thought I would just start with a little example of how someone becomes a little bit difficult. And it's if you imagine 5 people sitting around a table having coffee together, you know, they're having a cappuccino conversation. And person number 1 is regaling the fact that the next door neighbor's son is going off for swimming championships, and he's a great swimmer and he's fantastic and really looking forward to his success. And then person number 2 kind of interrupts person number 1 and says, well, you don't forget about my son. You know, my son's he's a real champion, and they're not so good. They're not so good. They're not as good as him. So they're a little bit critical. And then person number 3 he says, well, I've met him, you know, I know him. And, oh, God, he's an awful person. I just can't stand him. And then person number 4 is just, they've gone all passive-aggressive. They're all gone all quiet. They're not saying anything. And they're inside. They're just fuming inside. And you can tell they're fuming because you can feel their attitude and you can feel their vibration, etc. So the reason I use this example is it just illustrates, for me, the challenge that we're all facing. And that is that the relationship you have with other people is not with the other person. It's with your version of the other person. Yeah. And that's quite a deep idea. It takes a little while to sink in. But the relationship you have with the other person, whoever they may be in your life, your partner, your children, your family, your best friend, etc., is not the person you're having the relationship with. It's your version of that person. And that version is created by you in your consciousness. For those of you who really are coming here for the first time, you will, well, maybe understand, maybe not. For those of you who have been here a few times, you'll know that everything we teach here is based on one thing. And this is the idea that consciousness is what you are. Yeah, whether you call it soul or spirit or psyche, it doesn't really matter. But consciousness is what you are. And of course, that's not what we're taught. We're taught something quite different. In fact, the opposite. We're taught to believe, and this is the core belief that we're carrying that influences everything, is that you are what you see in the bathroom mirror every day, or the window that you pass in the high street. And you suddenly look around, oh, I know that, but oh, that's me. And then you suddenly realize that no, it's not you. It's what you're occupying and animating, in a sense. But if you carry the belief that you are what you see, then that affects everything you create in your consciousness from that point onwards. Everything. And the attachment to that belief, which is what we all grow up with, what we're all taught, it's what the marketing people want to keep us believing, in a sense, is the basis of something called the ego. And that's what the ego is. It's the identification, it's the attachment to, really, what you are not. Yeah. And that's why everything that you see around you, or everything we're encountering almost every day, is really an illusion. I mean, it's real, don't get me wrong, but it's based on the illusory idea that you are just the form you occupy. And therefore you think the other is the same. Therefore you believe the other is the same. And upon this one belief is your personality is kind of built. So, two ideas I was sharing with you here. One is that we are responsible for our creation of the other person, the person we find difficult. And two, the fact that consciousness is what you are. So I'm sharing these two ideas with you. Now, you'll find that quite hard to put into practice. I've been practicing for 40 years, and I still find it quite challenging, really, because so deep is this illusion. So deep have we allowed this belief to put its roots down in our consciousness. Yeah, so deeply. This is why you have things like meditation and contemplation and the Eastern paths, wisdoms, etc., is because they understand this dynamic. And they spend time trying to overturn it, trying to correct it, trying to see themselves as they really are. Now, to do that, and then, in other words, to do that and change the way you're reacting to, whether it's one person or two people in your life, to change, to transform what Sam was talking about, yourself, requires power. It requires energy. That's why this place exists. It exists for people to come here and rediscover their own power to change the way they create other people and the world. That power is already there, but you can't get at it. You can't tap into it. You can't use it until you get rid of, let go of the beliefs. Well, this one belief that you are just what you see in the mirror, and all the other beliefs that arise from that. They're all in the way. The belief that I am what I do, where I come from, I am what I look like, I am, etc. How many beliefs? The way the world works, the way the government works, my relationship to my boss, etc. All of those are all coming out of this one belief that you are what you see in the mirror. So the power to change, basically your personality, which is based on these beliefs, the power to change is already within you. It's already there. But it requires accessing it. It requires connecting with it. It requires you go a little bit more deeply. I need to go a little bit more deeply than I do in my day-to-day life, my day-to-day interactions. So what happens normally is that when we encounter the person that we're having a difficult time with, is that they say or they do things, like the person who does do what you don't want them to do, when they say or do things, they trigger your reaction. And you've learned to believe, another extension of this core belief, that they are the creator of your reaction. They are creating how you feel. And that's why you blame them, criticize them, get upset with them. That's why you react to them, reaction. And whenever there's a reaction, there is an emotion. There's an emotional reaction. That's what it is. That's what a reaction is. It's made of emotion. And that emotion is always coming from your ego. That's what the ego produces. It produces an emotional, a disturbance. An emotion is just a disturbance in your consciousness. That's all it is. It's not wrong. It's not right. It's just a disturbance, which is the result of a mistake. It's just a mistake that I'm making. So what I'm saying is that it's time now for us, each of us, to take responsibility for our response, which really means take responsibility for the way we create the other person. Whether it's the character in the movie, or the character in your lounge. It doesn't really matter. It's that whenever you react to that character, it means your ego is at work. You are making a mistake. I am making a mistake. It's a sign that I need to correct something in my consciousness. And the more I make those corrections, and it's not going to happen overnight, unfortunately. It's not going to happen in a weekend. It's definitely not going to happen in a workshop like this. But the more I make the correction, the more I accept that, well, yeah, I've just made a mistake, so now let's correct it, then the easier it becomes over time. Over time. Yeah. One of the signs that your emotional reaction to the difficult person or the person you're finding it hard to get on with in life is a state of resistance, is that you're resisting them. And that resistance is like ingrained in your reaction. Yeah, you resist the person, you resist what they're doing, you're resisting what they say. And you can begin to feel it. If you have a level of awareness, you begin to notice it in your words, the way you speak to them, in your attitude towards them, in your actions, your behaviors. You'll notice that resistance. I don't want to be with you, or I need to go away, or you know, I don't really like you. This is all going on in your mind as a form of resistance. But of course, we're British, we're very English. So our face is, God, it's nice of you. Yeah, it's nice. You're very good. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. But inside, and so you have a gap. You have this gap. Yeah, and it's like we know we have this gap, but we keep putting it to one side over time. And so we're in a state of resistance to the other person. And that resistance is just a sign that I'm holding on to something. I don't want to let go. I don't want to be free, really, on the inside. Yeah, I don't want to be free. I've always had this attitude towards them, and so that's me. Yeah, that's what I'm like. That's what I do all the time. I'm always like this. And so we're holding on to it. And so it takes power to change. It takes power to let go. And that power comes with the realization. And the deepest realization, of course, is this realization of who you are, of who I am. It sounds so simple. It sounds so easy. But actually, it's the hardest thing in the world. A lot of people say, well, just be yourself. Just be yourself. You know, everything will be okay if you just be yourself. You know, be right. And then 10 minutes later, you think, yeah, that might be true, but who the hell am I? And that's a good question to live with, is who am I? Yeah, that's the question that we all have to live with every single day if you decide you want to make a change to you. And you will when you see that you are the creator of the other person and you're having a relationship with your creation. Primarily. Yeah. So in other words, if you do this properly, it doesn't matter what people say, what they do, what happens, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In other words, you've moved from resistance into acceptance. You just accept them as they are. You accept the way things as they are. It is what it is. Yeah. Again, that sounds easy, but I'm just trying to illustrate the space you're moving towards is this unconditional acceptance of everyone and everything at every moment. Is that enough? I think that's enough. You're looking at me very seriously. Yeah. And so this is the challenge that we all face. And you know, to go on to the positive side a little bit, you know, it's useful to describe what the relationship would look like should you be in a space of total acceptance all the time. Yeah. In other words, the ideal, in a sense, the ideal, the vision, you know, and so the ideal would look something like. And it's something you can aim for if you want to, or you can take parts of it. Would look like, number one, you're taking responsibility. I know I'm responsible. I might not be very good at taking responsibility to begin with. I might be failing quite a bit, and that's okay too. but at least there's a recognition that I'm responsible for how I'm creating them and the relationship that I'm having with my version of them. I know I'm going to encounter them. I know I'm going to meet them. I know it's going to be a challenge. And so before I go into that challenging interaction with them, I'm thinking to myself, what can I give to them? Yeah. If you notice, you're a difficult person, there's always somebody that you want something from, or you want someone to do differently, or you want someone to say differently, or you want someone to be. So you're always wanting from the person that you're having difficulty with. Usually, always wanting. And so I'm going into the encounter now with the idea of what can I give to this person? Yeah. What can I give? Time, energy, wisdom, or just a positive attitude? What can I give to this person? Because my encounter with them is an opportunity to give. And this is why I think, I don't know, but this might be one of the reasons why someone once said that relationship is simply the opportunity to be creative. Yeah. Relationship is the opportunity to be creative. And so whatever you create, then that's what you're emanating from, the intention to give. You're intending to give them something. The foundation of all relationship, whether it's with someone that you get on well with or someone you don't like, it doesn't really matter, is this idea of respect. It's usually the first thing to go and the last thing to come back, as they say. It's this idea of respect. If there's no mutual respect, there is no relationship, really, in a sense, in that moment. And that's really all that matters, in that moment. So if you're in the habit of thinking darkly about the other person, and you're bringing that darkness to the relationship all the time, then you are destroying the possibility that respect may emanate from you to them. You're destroying that in that moment. They're not doing that. But of course, we've learned to believe they are. They're responsible because they don't respect me. So why should I respect them? Oh, come on. Who are you kidding? And so we choose not to respect. Yeah. And so that takes us into the idea that someone has to earn your respect. You know that belief? They have to earn, is that right? They have to earn it. Yeah, come on. They're not doing it. They're not earning it. Why should I respect them? They don't respect me. And so I'm going to withdraw. And so we withdraw our respect, believing that that's the right thing to do in that moment, because they have not earned my respect. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Do you need to have your respect earned? Do you need to earn the respect of the other? That's a question. That's a question to live in, to live with, explore, and see for yourself, because this won't really make much difference until you see for yourself. For me personally, it's not easy, but no one has to earn my respect. I am prepared to be respectful to everyone that I encounter. Reason? Simple, really. Kind of logical in a sense. Something we're not taught is that when you give, whatever you give, whether it is respect or anything else, then who's the first to feel it on the way out? Who's the first to know it as you express it? Who's the first to be empowered by it? It's me. It's got to be me. Because, well, when you love someone, when you make someone an object of your love, who is the first person who feels that love? If it's true, on the way to the object of your love. You are. You do. So it makes sense. Oh, God, I wish they'd taught me this at school. But they didn't. They taught me the opposite. The opposite. I don't know if you've ever had that person who follows you around and kind of clings to you. and you kind of try and shake them off a little bit. You know, they've got you in their sights, and they admire you, and they put you up on a pedestal, and they're very clingy. You know, the clingy individual. and so you think, how do I free myself from this person? So it's the opposite, really, of what you think might be the right thing to do, which is to avoid them. You think that might be okay, but actually it's the opposite. It's to serve them in some way, whatever way, to be of service to that person. Yeah, so that's how you work your way out of a clingy relationship, is to serve. You feel trapped in the corner, serve your way out. What is it they need? Yeah, what do they need? Because they're looking for something. That's why they're clinging on to you. They're looking for support. They're looking for some kind of happiness. They're looking for their own contentment, really. By clinging to you, they think they can get it from you. So, serve them. Give them time. Give them attention. Give them what they need, but give them a little less each time. It's a little bit like a drug addict. You know, when a drug addict is addicted to drugs, the way they come off drugs is they give them a little bit less each time. Yeah? And so eventually they free themselves from the addiction. Yeah? And so the same with that person, is just give them a little bit, serve them a little bit, and then a little bit less, little bit less, little bit less, until that clinginess, that neediness disappears. Again, it's not easy, but when that person walks in the room and that's not the person you'd like to be with for the next 10 minutes or so, one of the secrets is to create your version of them as your teacher. Don't tell them this. Don't say this to them. I say, oh, you're my teacher today. Well, I mean, you don't. You can if you want, depending on the relationship, and they're all different. But if you see them as your teacher, then you're open to learning something from them. Yeah. Maybe not from them, but maybe from the exchange of the relationship. You're open to learning something. There's something that's going to occur which is going to teach me, and so they're my teacher in that moment. Just in that moment, just in that interaction. It doesn't have to be all the time. But it changes your way of creating them in your consciousness, your version of them. Yeah? And that changes your attitude. That changes your way of interacting with them. Yeah, does that make sense? A lot of people have trouble with authority, and so the authority figure in their life, they then bow down, and then their self-esteem goes down, their self-worth goes down, disappears. And so somehow there's this person with the authority position is always be the dominant one in their life. And this has happened since childhood for many of us. It's just the authoritative parent, the controlling parent. The parent who says you will do this, who lays down the law, who says you won't do that, and et cetera, et cetera. So as we grow up, we replace the parent with the manager, with the guy at work who's the dominant one, or the dominant character in the group. We replace them with that authority. And so we become fearful of authority. Some people have this, some people don't. It's like a little chip in the computer of consciousness. Yeah. And so some people have this chip. And so then it's necessary for me, and this was a big issue for me for a long time because of my parents and my older brothers. I had 4 authority figures in my life, and so I grew up with authority around me all the time, and so I was constantly kind of a little bit wary, scared, tense, anxious around those individuals. And so I would transfer this into my relationships and my work, and I joined the military because I was addicted to authority, in a sense. I'd spent a short time in the military. This is a previous what feels like a previous birth now. And so it's necessary, and this was my only way out of it, was to see not the position of the person, not to have a relationship with the position, but with the person, with the individual, remembering that they're a human being. They go to the toilet, they have their own problems, they have their own families, etc. And so I had to re-see that person, recreate that person in my own consciousness, shift my version. And so that meant becoming more aware of how I was creating them and relating to them as a position and not so much as a person, as a human being. So the way out of that, of fear of authority, if you have it, you may not have it, and sure, not everyone does, is that's one way. And then maybe the way to deal with all people at some stage, whether they're difficult or not, is and this is what people call the most important communication skill, and you're doing it really well. Most of you, yeah, your eyes are still open, you're still awake, you're still aware. Thank you very much. And there's the occasional nod of the head, which means you're doing a lot of listening. Yeah, and you're listening with a lot of respect. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And so the secret is actually listening without hearing. Yeah, so just think about that for a minute. Just listening without actually hearing. So your difficult person is going to be throwing difficult energies at you, whether it's quietly through their attitude, or through their words, or through their eyes. And so you're listening. You listen more with your eyes than you do with your ears, actually. And so as you're listening, the secret is not to hear. Yeah. We would call it negative energy. They're throwing negative energy at you, and then you're reacting by throwing negative energy back at them. So now you're just listening. No, I hear it, but I don't hear it. Yeah. That's the secret, is to listen without actually hearing, without allowing the energy that they're throwing at you to register in your consciousness. Yeah. Now, one of the things that helps me to do that well is just to remember I'm the creator of my version of other people, and so they're the creator of their version of me. Yeah, so it works both ways. Yeah, and so if they're throwing negative energy at you, it means they're generating that energy, and they're generating that energy because they are feeling and thinking negatively, badly, in other words, distortedly, darkly, and they're trying to throw that at me. So therefore, they are in some form of pain. They're suffering. Now, as a human being, as you're watching another human being suffer, we all know the appropriate response is compassion. You have compassion to someone who's suffering, at least someone you don't know. In other words, someone you haven't yet learned to take it personally from. If you're watching someone suffering, you have compassion. But of course, if you know them, if you've had a long-term relationship with them, there's a little less compassion. What do you mean? Oh, what are you getting at me for? So you're taking it personally now. So they are suffering, and so is it possible for me to shift into compassion in my relationship with them? Wow. That takes energy, that takes power, it takes the power of your consciousness. You don't get that in your breakfast cereal, unfortunately. You only get that within yourself, within myself. And that's why it's necessary to spend time clearing away what's inside. It's necessary to attend lots of these. I'm sure you do anyway. It's necessary to really explore for yourself and see for yourself. That's why I often say you must not believe a word I say. It won't make any difference. It's only when you see for yourself that you make a difference for yourself. So that's the ideal up the other end, taking responsibility, being respectful, serving, giving, etc. And so that's a little bit further down the line. That is when you really are empowered and you're moving very, very, very smoothly towards that destiny, if you like, of being able to deal with anyone at any time and accept whatever is going on, whatever anyone is like. In the meantime, just to finish off, let's give you a practical tool that you might want to use on a day-to-day basis as you're making the journey towards the extreme, ideal, perfect end. And I'd just like you to think of your difficult person for a moment. Just bring them into your mind. And then I'm going to give you four profiles, and then how to deal with each of those profiles, in a sense. I don't know if profile is the right word. But thinking of your difficult person, and you're thinking of either one of the four. The first one's a controller. They like to be in control. They're always using the word should. They should. Yeah, trying to fix others. Or they're a relator. And so they like to relate to people. The controller likes function, likes to make things happen. Whereas the relator likes to connect with other people and likes to appreciate. And they are appreciated by other people. So your difficult person could be one of those two categories, or the third category, which is analyzer. In other words, they're always looking at the details, the facts. They're the analyzer. They're always breaking things down. They're always asking why, who, where, when. They're always analyzing. And the fourth is the entertainer. That's the person who likes to get attention from everyone, get the applause from everyone, who likes to crack jokes all the time and have people appreciate them all the time. And so they're the entertainer. So your difficult person, see if you can see which one of those four they might be. Just imagine in your mind. Okay? So let's take the controller first. What does the controller need? The controller needs to feel they're in control. So how do you work with them to get the job done? How do you work with them to live with them? How do you be with them? By giving them what they need. How do you do that? By walking and talking in ways where they feel as if they're in control. Yeah. Does it cost me anything? Does it cost me anything? Oh. And so it allows them to feel as if they're in control. And so it satisfies their need. So at some stage, in walking with them in such a way, they will say to you, well, what do you think? And then you'll get the chance to influence the direction that we're going in. Yeah. Otherwise, you've no chance. Otherwise, they're just trying to be in control all the time. Now, the relator, what do they need? They need to feel a sense of approval, a sense of acceptance. They need to feel that because people are more important to them. With the controller, you talk about function. With the relator, you talk about other people. Yeah, why not? Does it cost me anything? No, it doesn't cost me anything. It's not about what's to be done, it's about who's going to do what. Yeah, so that's how I'm going to work with them. And as I walk down the road with them, giving them what they need, they will turn to me at some stage and say, well, what do you think? And then you get the opportunity to be of influence in that relationship. Yeah, careful, because, I'm of influence here, sometimes spills over a little line called control. And parents are very good at this. For various reasons. That's another seminar. And so the third category is the analyzer. What does the analyzer need? What do they need? They need everything to be perfect, just right, just so. So, if you communicate with an analyzer, don't be surprised if you get a little memo back saying this word is spelt wrongly. Because everything's got to be perfect. And so give them what they need. Does it cost me anything? No, it doesn't cost me anything. I just know that's what they need at this moment in time. And so I give that to them. Yeah, I'm being creative. I'm being very flexible. I'm being nice and flexible. I'm being accepting the way they are right now. I can't change them. I can't fix them. This is the way they are. Yeah, and so this is how I'm going to connect with them and get on with them in this moment. And then the fourth one is the entertainer. Maybe your difficult person is like an entertainer type who likes to crack the jokes, get the applause, get the entertaining feedback. And so give them that feedback. Tell them how funny they are. Tell them how morale goes up when they come in, when they enter the room. It's okay. It's all right. And then as you walk down the road, they will turn to you at some stage and say, well, what do you think? And then you have the opportunity. You've won the opportunity to connect, really connect with that person in a way that is challenging your creativity. Yeah. So I think that's enough from me. So what I'd like to do now is ask you to say hello to the person next to you, and then on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is definitely not and 10 is yeah, is tell them how difficult a person you are to get on with. Okay, 1 is definitely not, and 10 is, oh God, I'm so hard to get on with. Yeah, and then the second question is, what is it that you heard in the past 20 minutes that is useful for you, that you could use back at the ranch? Do you want to do that? Say hello to the person next to you. Someone you didn't come with is better, much better. Yeah, I do 3. Yeah, I do 3. That's okay.
We were looking at the different profiles and we talked about the controller. Often a controller won't ask the question, what do you think?
You know, what we're talking about here is very messy.
Yeah.
It's unpredictable and unknown. But for most people, if you meet their needs, if you can sense the need of the person and you meet their need, then further down the road, I don't know how long that road is.
Well, it's a long road, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be with that person, especially with you. I don't know. You know, it might well be. But it eventually, because you are giving to them, it's like a little bit of a law. What you give, you'll get back. So if you give respect to someone, they eventually, you might have to be patient, it will come back, it will return. But then, you know, please don't believe me. Experiment.
I've been experimenting lots, yeah.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
We were wondering, say, for example, when you are with a controller, yeah, and you keep giving them what they need.
Yeah.
Where do you end up yourself after a while when you keep letting that person control you? Where is that a good place?
No. It's not a question of letting them control you.
Yeah.
It's
but then when you keep feeding their needs to control.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, if you follow through on the logic, you'll find that because you've shifted from wanting something from, I want you to stop controlling me. I want you to stop it. I want you to be different. I want you to be other than what you are. As soon as you start giving them what they need, then you're in a giving state. And then that is enough to set you free on the inside. That's enough to set you free. If you keep doing it, then you've stopped wanting anything, which means you're not free. You're dependent on them for doing something. You're dependent. That's not freedom. That's dependency.
Well, I'm not 100% convinced because, I mean, what if the other person keeps doing it more?
But then you have to notice, when you're talking about a controlling person in that way, just look closely at what you're doing yourself. You're controlling them. You're trying to control them. Do you see it? Yeah, that's what you're doing. You want them to stop it. And if you think about it, you're doing what they're doing. Yeah, you don't want it to be controlling, so you want to control them. Yeah, really. It's in some senses, it's very subtle. And so that's the challenge, is to see yourself. You are yourself creating them in your consciousness as you are. As you are. Yeah. That's why you see that in them. And you get this with 3 people sitting over a table. So person number 1, they're talking, person number 2 just just loves them, just being with them all the time, as much as they can. Person number 3 can't stand them. And then you wonder, why are 2 and 3, why are they have such a different opinion of person 1? I'm sure we've all been in that sort of situation. And so it's because we are creating the other in our consciousness according to how we see ourselves. Oh. Ouch, yeah, it's a big ouch, really. It's a big ouch. But then it's a freeing ouch, you know, when you really get it. It sets you free. It sets you free. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hello. You make a mistake here. You've only got 4 people. What do I do with that? Oh, I see. Number 5 should be a colleague of mine or a friend of mine who suffers from verbal diarrhea. And so once you get the guts in any conversation with him, including himself, he won't stop.
Yeah.
He's so insensitive.
Yeah.
Now, other than violence, any suggestions overcomes that.
You know, one of the things that we're afraid to do, not everyone, but many people are just afraid to leave the room. Just leave the room. If they're getting off, if they're going on and rabbiting on, just leave. But leave with respect. Leave them with respect. Live with that feeling. Because if you're nearly there, because if you're bothered, it's you that's bothering you, not them. So if you don't want to take any more, don't take it anymore. That's okay. That's called self-respect. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. No, please do. Think a lot. Yeah, go on. So you were saying? Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're usually a cross between the entertainer and the analyzer. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to continue on that because when you are in, for example, like an abusive relationship, you know, there are psychopaths and narcissists out there as well.
Yeah.
So when you give and give or you do something, you know, the boundaries and so forth are obviously very important. So what you said just now then is that just leave.
Yeah.
So if you're being, you know, mistreated, manipulated in any way, shape, or form, that's what you would suggest. And so don't keep doing what you're doing. Leave.
I mean, again, it's messy. It's messy. It's hard to sort of pin down. But yes, yeah, and you get examples of this in women who've been abused or are abused a lot by their partner, or the other way around, in a sense. But they stay in the relationship, and it may well be that they are inviting that abuse. It may well be that's because as a child they were abused by the parent, and they interpreted that as love, as a caring parent. It's what parents do. It's what my first caregiver does. And therefore they go looking for that relationship in later life, and then they stay in it. And then we wonder, God, how do you take it all the time? How do you manage to put up with this? Why don't you just leave? And they don't leave because they're addicted to that kind of abuse. It's really funny, basically, really funny. But that's, again, another seminar for, yeah. It's good. Anyone else? Everybody satisfied? Yeah. Yeah, they the best one is being yourself. Being yourself, yeah. Which is what I talked about at the beginning. It kind of does, yeah. 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 It's good. Oh, yes.
How do you think, what response should there be if a group of people decides that a particular person is the problem and directs a lot of hostility to that particular person? What response? Because that would be a lot of different controllers and relators. Yeah. So what should be the response then?
To the group, you mean? The response to the group? Well, when a group of people focus on one individual, it tends to be called scapegoating. You know, they're either blaming or criticizing or attacking that one individual, and then they support each other in the attack. They're supporting each other. Oh, yeah, oh, no, he's like, and it's affecting him, and it's affecting her, and it's affecting them. And so this happens a lot at work, in the workplace. You know, you get a whole team of people. Yeah, in organizations, yeah, and that's the context. And so that it's very easy for the manager or the leader or whoever of that group to join in with the rest of the group. But the enlightened manager, the enlightened individual, does both. Focuses on the individual that needs to have the attention, needs to be understood. Why are they garnering all this attention from others? But he also focuses on the other people, all the others, and says, why are you making yourselves victims of this one person?
And what if it's a controlling manager?
Yeah, well, a controlling manager isn't very good at doing this. because they have the tendency to agree with all the other, you know, the scapegoating, basically. They have the tendency to agree to that. And so the enlightened individual speaks to both. Where there's smoke, there's always a bit of fire. So there's something that is emerging from this individual, which is not quite accurate. That's fine, that's okay. And so there's a lot emerging from the rest of the group who are all making themselves victims of this one person. Yeah, and so the enlightened manager says, why are you making yourself victims? And the reason that they're making themselves victims is because they are coming from the belief system that the other person is responsible for what they feel. Yeah, and so they're not, basically. Each one of us is responsible for our own feelings, our own emotions, our own thoughts, our own creation. We are responsible for that. And so he teaches them that, and then they stop being a victim of that person. See, it's quite complex in a sense, until you see it. Yeah.
On your thoughts, do people generally have an issue or a self-criticism? I mean, when you're saying about sort of analysing other people that you meet and in 4 different categories, but if we were to try and analyse ourselves and see which characters we are and what characteristics we expose to others when we meet them and everything, and deal with those within ourselves. I mean, some people can do that and be honest with themselves, and others have a difficulty doing that, and they tend to just drop that. And then they come up to the next meeting they have with somebody, and the same thing happens because they haven't managed to look inwardly into themselves.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what your thoughts
I was doing that really up one end of the spectrum is the ideal you, the one who's fully self-realized in a sense. That's what I was trying to take you towards. But in the meantime, when you go out and interact with the rest of the world and your family and home and your boss and your workers, etc., then there's a middle road that you can play around with and experiment with if you're interested, if you want to. And those four areas, you know, which they're not perfect by any means, but they might be helpful. They might be useful to some people. Definitely. Yeah. So you're all looking at me very strangely now. Yeah. That's good. No one else? Okay. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just very interested in the 4 categories, and I just think maybe a time factor needs to be fed into this as well, because people evolve over time, in my opinion anyway. I just think they can change, or they can have elements of each category within their persona.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing is, sorry, I don't know your name, but the gentleman here was saying, well, what happens in the second meeting that you meet somebody? And it's kind of possible, of course, that relationship evolves. And as a relationship between 2 people evolves, they can go in different directions. And that can affect change. So we ourselves are kind of sensitive to that. So our persona changes with I mean, if we have bits of hidden ego or whatever, they can actually sometimes disappear, then reappear or whatever. It's always in a sense of flux, and it depends really on time, I think. So people can change, I believe, and people are not necessarily a category.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I'm not. I wasn't trying to categorize people. I was just trying to reach a description of their needs at this point in time.
Okay.
And it is messy. You're quite right. It's people will change, and their needs will change for sure. It is messy. Relationships are like life.
So I found it interesting you saying about give them what they need and then withdraw gradually. Again, it's a bit of a time thing, possibly. So I guess in this situation I've got is I have been withdrawing, and I've totally withdrawn now, but the other person doesn't like that. So they're still messaging me and sending me
I see.
cards
Okay.
and things. Yeah, so that they don't like it that I've totally
Okay.
withdrawn. So I'm a bit kind of, do I just stay in my power and be happy? I do feel I've given and given and given.
Okay.
They obviously still need me.
Okay, so then that's fine. That's up to you. That's really up to you, because only you know the texture, the color, the state of that relationship, and only you know the other person. You know, and so it might well be that you just stay on the course you're on, and that's it. Fine, thank you. Or else you turn back and you come from a different energy than you did before in the relationship, so that they will see you've changed. So there's more formality, there's less familiarity, or there's less time given.
Yes,
You know, it's really it's a question of, you can't forget about someone ultimately, because this is where they are, and so you have all those memories of them, and so you have to only know whether you're avoiding or whether you're actually letting go.
I think time will tell.
Yeah, well, it obviously is, yeah. That's why it's just messy. Yeah. Don't tell me you've had an aha.
I find the thing is to give to the other person what they need.
Yes, yeah.
Is achievable, and it is doable when you
Yeah.
are in yourself balanced.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, say for example, if I come across an annoying person, or I think they are annoying to me, whichever. Yeah. After I just come from a wonderful retreat, I
yeah.
can go like, doesn't do nothing to me.
Okay,
But when I have, say for example, I had a really stressful time, a hard day at work, then it's not quite so simple. So, I mean, there we have to sort of find ways for ourselves where
Yeah.
we can put ourselves into this.
definitely, yeah.
Is it that we just say, breathe now? It's always
Yeah.
a thing, take 5 breaths, but it even
Yeah.
doesn't work most of the time. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it is, I think, it is achievable and we can do it. It's just because we are always sort of dealing with other situations that
Yeah,
are
yeah,
impacting
yeah,
us.
definitely,
It is not
definitely.
always achievable, unfortunately.
I think you're absolutely right. Right at the beginning, I was saying it takes power. It takes power to change yourself. And that power is it's not like electricity. It's not like you just plug in and you get it. It's like you have to go through those times when, exactly. You're working on yourself, and you're going through those times when you do reach the lowest and the hardest parts. But there's a part of you in those times which is saying, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm really down here," and you're not in resistance to it. You're accepting it as it is. And that requires that shift from that, I shouldn't be down here, I should be working on myself more. No, and that shift into, I'm just down, I just haven't been able to cope, and I can't tolerate, that's fine. So you've made the shift from resisting the where you are to accepting. That takes power. That takes energy. And so that's a sign that you're on the right move, you're in the right way. Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying to everybody, all of them, including myself, well, primarily myself, is to tap into that power that is already there within me. And I know it's already there because I've been doing this for 40 years. And so I know it's there, but I haven't completely got it yet. I'm still working. I'm still doing my work. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you see, that's exactly that's what we do. Now you're in a state of resistance again. Yeah? No, it's good because everybody needs to hear. That's great. Yeah.
So what we were saying basically really is the challenges of having that distance of like negative energy
Yeah.
is actually within us to allow it either a staying and giving our positive energy, or allowing ourselves to walk away from that power, walking away from that and protecting our own self.
When you walk away, it's not a question of protection. It's a question of knowing the right thing to do, knowing the
Yeah.
appropriate thing to do in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can't protect yourself, you're unprotectable in a sense.
But you understand, but you're protecting your thoughts, aren't you? So you're not going round and round thinking that you can
You will
mend
need
something that's not mendable. if
you
that
will
makes
need
sense.
to go round and round and to see yourself going
Yeah.
round and round in your thoughts
Yeah.
before you will stop.
Yeah.
So you need to see that. You can't avoid it. You
No.
can't push it away.
No.
You need to see it and then accept it.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the resolution
And that's
of it.
part of the
change.
healing, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In a sense, but it's not really. It's because the light is slowly going on. Yeah, but right now, most people, they just don't want to look they don't want to look at it. They don't want to look there.
No.
Yeah, they're not prepared. They just don't want. They're just asleep, fast asleep. You know.
Okay. Okay.
So the entertainer is the person who always likes the stage and the attention, and they like the applause. You know, they like to be told how good they are and how important they are to have around, and how the morale goes up when they come in the room, and so on. Yeah.
Sometimes in a workplace,
Yeah,
most of these profiles are sort of hit on quite a lot.
yeah,
And the environment that I work in was sort of controlled,
yes,
but it's not so easy to walk away because I work in hospitals.
yeah, yeah,
Some of the clinicians sort of feel, thank you.
yeah,
You do as I say,
yeah,
so it's much harder to sort of,
yeah,
you can please them all the time, so you get to a point where actually I'm not quite happy
yeah,
in pleasing this person because it's not right for the patient.
yeah.
So I find that a little bit difficult
Yeah.
to handle.
That's the messiness of it.
It's
you
very
know.
messy.
And so the people that are around you, they're your teachers in that moment, and so they're
Yeah.
teaching you to deal with that.
Exactly, because
You
I
know,
would
you
say the
can't avoid
patient's
that.
my advocate, not the clinician. So I have great hurdles each time,
Yeah,
and I am pleasing. But
Yes.
It doesn't please me because I don't feel that it's what I should be
yeah.
doing.
So then you have to explore yourself
Yeah,
and ask yourself, why am I not being pleased at me
Mm.
pleasing others? Why am I not pleasing myself? What's the gap here?
yeah,
So it's the becoming aware of that gap, and then resolving it in yourself. In other words, am I a people pleaser?
I am. I would
Well,
say
yeah,
that.
okay, yeah.
But there's certain people in the group that are entertainers that can just, the way I handle it is do that. But
Yeah.
for me, that doesn't work. I wish I could.
Yes. So
Then
then you
I
have to
wouldn't get
ask
so
yourself,
stressed.
why are you criticizing that? That's all.
Okay,
Yeah, and then that will raise your awareness a little bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good. I think that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Okay. Let's finish with a few moments of quietness together as we usually do here. And I'll share a few thoughts. And takes us into a state of meditation. At least that's how it's labeled. So just relax your body in the chair. A quick scan of your body to find any points of tension. Just let it go. Then bring your awareness to your breath, to your breathing. And just observe your breath for a moment. awareness to yourself. And see if you can be aware of being aware. So now consciously create in your own mind a very simple thought. I am a being of peace. Peace is my natural state. And then allow that thought to just fade away. And then notice what remains. There's a feeling of peace. Fully aware, fully awake. Feeling very calm, very still. And now the mind is silent. And there's a stillness at the heart of my being. Silent and still. So then bring your awareness back to the room around you. But bring that peace, bring that silence with you. So as you listen with these ears, hear from that silence. As you see with these eyes, see from that silence. It's good. Thank you.